I really can't see the screen on this. My case, my protective screen is so scratched up I can hardly see what I'm doing. Anyway, so back to the strawberry thing. This is strawberries as ground cover. We did last year. These are the June bearing strawberries. And as you can see, for all those little red dots, there are definitely strawberries in there. And I've kept them separate because I wasn't sure how well they were going to do. And then I ordered, so the June bearing are from Walmart, and about, pardon me, about half of them made it. The first year was very, very thin. This is where we had habanero peppers on this side of the fence. The tomatoes were on the fence line, and then the strawberries on the other side. So this year we're going to plant directly into those and just use them as ground cover going forward. I'm not trying to get an actual crop out of these because these are not particularly well suited to the Louisiana humidity and sun. Again, everybody will tell you to plant strawberries in full sun. When you think about it long term, strawberries are actually native to woodlands. They don't like full sun. The reason they're kicking out berries like crazy is because they actually have to, because they're trying to survive. So they're setting seed. That's what they're doing. Anytime you need a plant to produce, stress it. That seems to be the rule of thumb. So if you want a plant to grow lots of foliage, then put it in its native environment. If you want it to produce a lot of fruit, kick it into an environment that it wants to produce. Now that sounds counterintuitive when I say I'm planting into that garden, but there's not that much shade over there. But we're going to plant tomatoes and cucumbers right underneath that apple tree, and use the apple tree as the trellis. So they will get this morning sun, no problem. But then they'll be out of the blasting heat, which, ooh, is it blasting heat here? Not really a problem in California because it's not that humid, but it's a different kind of heat down here, no doubt. Over here we have the Martha Washington asparagus, so much smaller. The Jersey Giants will get, thumb size thickness, and like the kind you can put on the grill. These are the more tender shoots. And then this is ever-bearing strawberries. So this is actually crop strawberries. This whole bed. And then I've planted, again, a little more time in with them. But as you can see, there's really not a lot of weeds. Strawberries are fantastic for blocking weeds. And they spread like crazy, so why not? Why not use them? Over here, looking dead as a doornail. But it's not. That's mint. We had another frost after it was up, so all that needs to be removed. But so we have rosemary, some comfrey, the mint, a sage, oregano that I'm using as ground cover. I'm going to dig that up and spread that around some more comfrey, all that good stuff. And then these are hugel beds with greens for the rabbits. If I could get my brain to work. That mound of debris out there, we dug a hole. I gotta be careful not to step on any of the sunflowers, which are coming over here as a trap crop for the leaf foot buds. And a certain individual is cutting rabbit food. It looks like. The blackberries along the back fence line, and we put down a bunch of pine straw all the way through, and we're still going to get some weeds, but most of it seems to be okay. But up here we should not have to water. That's what we're hoping for. But again, with this Louisiana sun and this very, very well drained compost, we'll see what happens. But there's logs and regular soil in there as well. And then The next bed, we have some kale in here. We've got our artichokes are in, because as it turns out, we all love artichokes. Yay. But we're doing bronze fennel as a little bit of a deterrent and also an attractant. So the fennel itself produces a chemical that stops weeds. They don't like to grow with it, so I'm keeping it away from the roots of my artichokes, but it's in between so it can attract all the goodies, and that's great. And then there are nitrogen fixers in here as well. There's some cilantro that volunteered, because again, I let it go to seed and then whacked it around. But there's cilantro in here, and you can see somebody keeps coming through and nibbling on things. This is a lovely little red yarrow that is coming up and spreading, so he should be just fine in here. But planting yarrow around the outside borders of everything to block this god-awful grass. You hear me griping about the grass all the time. It's horrible. Anyway, row of blackberries, and then this is where the food forest is going in. So we had trees to work with. They are somewhat infected with black knot from the original tree, but treating them, and then we'll wait and see if this one's gonna wake up. It should. It feels good. But there's a comfrey root down there feeding him directly, and then this is, all these beds will be food forest, so everything's going into these, and it should be up and lovely. I'm gonna put the black elderberry in here, and then the dome. We had planted lots and lots of loofah in the hopes that some would survive, and I think a couple have, which is fine. There'll still be plenty, but we also have our gourd squash, like the birdhouse squash. And I look at this, and I don't see any of my seedlings here. There's one. That's loofah. That's loofah. I think all of the gourd has to be restarted, and I think actually I'm gonna go ahead and try. Yeah, there's a couple loofah over here. So yeah, there's not very much left that started, or that was started from seed. So some will make it, some won't. Just need to get watered. She did just water it. But again, she weeded the trees the other day, or yesterday, I guess. Weeded somewhat, but there's a comfrey at the base of the trees. I'm gonna go through and clean these up and get rid of those crossing branches so that it's not knocking itself out. Trim them back down, and plant the food forest in here. So everything will be useful. That one is a plum, I believe. That one's doing well. This one I went through and did a whole lot of cutting on, and still could use a little more shaping, but that's where a comfrey was, and I dug it up, and that's what's coming up from the broken roots. So it should be good. Over here we got beans. So on the archway, we've got black beans and kidney beans coming up at the base here, and then the vine that is doing well is sweet pea, just for loveliness. And then moonflowers. I finally got moonflowers to grow here. Yay! Couldn't get them to grow to save my life in Ohio. I had great ones in California, but no. So trying for the moonflowers again. So this arch will be covered in edibles and beautifuls. There you go. And then, yeah, we've had a lot of projects going on. And then this year, we're starting our chicken salad bar. And in the chicken salad bar, we have a little sliding door, so we'll let them in for limited amounts of time so they can't destroy it, but they can get their nutrients and they can get all the bugs. So with that in mind, it is spring. It is supposed to be like 87 today. So 87 right now in March, on a regular basis. You know, it's not a fluke. So getting a little too hot for the brassicas. So I planted the cauliflower and the cabbage in here in the shade. And then when it gets hot enough that the cabbage butterflies come out, they can attack this all they want. I don't care. I'm gonna let the chickens get all the bugs, all the caterpillars, eat all the good stuff. So those are basically attracting feed for the chickens. I doubt that they will be able to produce an actual crop, but that's fine. I don't care. Now this whole long row is all comfrey starts, and in the beds we've got some oregano, more everbearing strawberries, lots of wildflower seeds coming up in here around the outside edge where it'll be nice and tall and in full sun are the sunchokes. They're already coming up pretty strong. The ones that we pulled out did not make it. They aren't doing a thing. So I think we're going to fill this patch in with something else. But we've got sweet peas on this back line to climb up this fence. Bronze fennel again, attracting all the things that chickens will like to eat. Some yarrow in here, more thyme. I think there might be, what else is in here? Maybe zinnias. I don't know. But anyway, so these teeny tiny walkways, right? But little raised beds just so we can get around. And then no sooner than she put these in and the ants took over. So this is warning, don't disturb the ants. Still trying to figure out what we can do to mitigate that problem, because it looks like maybe they're doing some damage to the orchard trees out front. But we have lots of little baby things popping up in the soil. You can see tiny little green dots. So those will be wildflowers. This is a baby sage. And that looks like a lupine. Ha! Ha ha ha! Sure as hell. Yay! So in the wildflower seeds, I got my lupines. Yay! Now, he won't do anything this year, but next year. Next year there will be lupines in here if they don't get the chance to kill that. Maybe I'll put a cover on it. But yeah, it looks like a little California poppy coming in. Awesome. But yeah, so it'll be a lovely little kind of wildflower kitchen garden, nutrient dense for the chickens. But we should still be able to get some good stuff out of here. And I also planted some mint in here. So that's that. Good morning, chickens. Because as you can see, there's nothing growing in their yard. But we have a little sliding door over here that we can open up and let them in. And that's that.